Hi guys, it's Dragana from Dragana's Crafts. Welcome to my second reading journal video. 3 warnings right at the start. First one, brace yourself, this is a long video. Second, you'll be seeing either my head or my hair popping in and out from time to time. I do apologize for that, but it can happen, especially when I write a lot or draw things with a ruler. And lastly, one of my kids came to me to ask if they can play on Nintendo Switch, so you'll see a blue Switch light popping in the screen. Oh, and one more thing before we start with the actual journal. If you like my videos, please give them a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell button so that you're notified of every new video I upload. Okay, so in this video, I'm walking you through my April setup, all the books I read in April, and at the end, I'll be showing a flip through of all the spreads, including the May setup. I haven't filmed May setup for 2 reasons. 1, I was running out of memory on my phone, and 2, May setup took me more than an hour, and to be honest, I was filming the April reads for several hours, so I just got tired. Next time, I'll be filming both the books I read in May as well as the June setup. If you've seen my reading journal setup video, you'll know that I'm using Stylogy 365 notebook. In case you haven't seen it, you can find it in the card in the top right corner and in the description box below. The stickers I'm using are from Sterling Ink subscription kit as well as from AliExpress. The store is called Journamm, I believe. I'll look it up and put all the links of all the supplies I used in this video in the description box below. For the cover page, I used 2 types of vellum that came in Sterling Ink subscription box. One vellum is B6 size and the other A4 that I cut down to fit the page in the notebook. Since I liked both vellums, I glued the smaller one on top of the big one, and voila, that is my cover page. I love it when creating a cover page goes fast and smooth. On the right page, I drew out this gorgeous looking frame I saw over on Instagram from a creator whose name I don't know by heart, but I'll look her up and link her Instagram page in the description box. I prepared the 2 craft tags beforehand. I have a paper punch that creates tags like this. The tags will contain information about my reading stats, books completed, pages read, average rating, and genre. Next to each tag, I placed 2 large vinyl stickers from Sterling Ink, and the reading stats page is complete. Next page I set up is the reading progress calendar. Those of you who follow Erin Smith here on YouTube or on Instagram will notice that my reading journal is heavily inspired by her. I think I mentioned this in my reading journal setup video, that this is my first time setting up a journal like this, and since I love Erin's work a lot, I decided to try out her layouts and see how they work for me. Most likely they will change in the future, but for now I'm happy with how things are. Anyway, back to the page setup. The idea behind the reading progress calendar is to mark when I started reading a book and when I finished it, and sort of marking a progress bar, if that makes sense. It's not a super functional spread, but it's a nice idea to be able to see how long it actually took me to read a specific book. The days of the week stickers and the dates are from Sterling Ink, as well as the April header sticker below the calendar. I shortened the video when I'm placing down the dates because that took forever, and it's not exactly pleasing for you guys to watch me struggle while peeling off the stickers and putting them down on the page. I mean, it might be funny in those moments when I get annoyed, but there were plenty of them, but definitely not funny enough for me to leave those parts in the video. The last page in the April setup that I set up is books read, and I definitely overestimated myself here because I drew out 20 little boxes in pencil where the book covers of the books I read would go, and 20 is definitely too ambitious for me, even though I am a fast reader. I mean, in my best reading years, I would read 12 or 13 books a month tops. Now with 2 kids, I simply don't have that much time on my hands, but I do miss my obsessive reading years. now we start with my favorite part of this journal, books I've read in April. I know it's not a lot, but I read only 7. Still, it's 7 more than I did in March. A couple of months ago, I saw these vintage stickers and papers on AliExpress and I love them. So I ordered a couple of different types of these pet tape stickers and haven't used them till now. I think the design of the sticker goes perfectly with my first book on the list, which is Magician from Raymond E. Feist. I hope I didn't butcher his last name. I read this book the first time more than 15 years ago and fell in love with it. So now I wanted to reread it for 2 reasons. First, I wanted to see how I'll feel about it now that I'm older. And second, the author stated that he added things in the new editions, so I wanted to see if I'll notice anything new. Naturally, I didn't because I read it too long ago the first time. Still, I enjoyed it immensely, even though one could say that it's more for young adults than for a 30-year-old. I guess I love it still because it brings back nice memories of the times when I read it for the first time, and I like the alien world he created in the book. Magician is the first book of the Rift War saga. In fact, it's the first book in the whole Rift War cycle. I believe there are 25 books in total in the Rift War cycle, and my goal for this year is to read them all, finally. The book follows the development of 2 boys, Pug, an orphan boy who becomes a magician, and Thomas, who grew up together with Pug and always dreamed about becoming a warrior. The world they live in is, in my opinion, just a regular fantasy world where humans, dwarves, elves, and other beings live. However, the world that Feist created and that I loved so much is Kelvon, the Empire of Turonuani. I'm not going to talk too much about the book because I don't want to spoil anything for anyone who hasn't read the book and maybe they would want to. Magician is a light read, even though it has 841 pages, but the writing style is good and I had a real smooth reading experience, if that makes sense. Before I forget, the cool pile of stickers I'm using here are made by Erin Smith and you can find them in her latest reading journal video. And the 5-star rating system stickers are created by me because I can't draw nice stars even if my life depended on it. So these stickers are really helpful. Second book that I've read is naturally the second book in the Rift War saga called Silverthorn. The book is very nice, even though I gave it less stars than I did to The Magician. It got 3.5 stars compared to Magician that got 3 stars and 4/5 of a star, so almost fully 4 stars. Why I gave it a slightly smaller rating? Well, apart from the two semi-side characters whom Feist gave a nice background story and they show clear development throughout the book, he didn't develop much the rest of the characters, not in any significant way. Or maybe that's just my impression, I don't know. But what lowered the score the most is intrigue. There's not much of it. So this book is a typical princess story from a man's point of view. The princess is mortally wounded, she's on her deathbed, and her prince must find the cure lest he loses her forever. Of course, when I describe the story this poorly, nobody would pick up the book. I mean, there's much more to the story than what I just said, and that's why it does have a decent score, but the rough base of the story is basically the princess and her prince and so on. That's what disappointed me a bit, though I did enjoy the book a lot. There are a lot of comical moments and I often giggled out loud when I read it, which of course earned me weird looks from my husband. The book itself has 386 pages and I read it in a couple of hours spread over 2 evenings. with the next book, book number 3, we finished the Rift War saga. A Darkness at Sethanon beautifully finishes the story that started in The Magician. It ties a lot of loose ends and explains why Thomas had to become what he became. It took Feist 3 books to keep me in suspense before he gave me the knowledge I needed. But seriously, this one is my second favorite in this saga, which the rating also shows. I give it the same rating as I did to Magician. A Darkness at Sethanon has 466 pages, but it took me longer to read it if I look at the reading progress calendar later on, because I couldn't read every evening from the moment I started it. The next trilogy is so far my favorite in the Rift War cycle. That's the Empire trilogy. Raymond E. Feist wrote it together with Jenny Wirtz, I hope I pronounced that correctly, and in these 3 books we get to know more about the Empire of Tsurunuani. Also, the timeline of these 3 books is closely connected to the Rift War saga, and I must mention that even though these are fantasy books, they definitely fall under political fantasy subgenre. These books are full of plot twists, intrigues, political murders, and I just love them. But let's start with the first book, Daughter of the Empire. Daughter of the Empire is the book about Mara of the Yakoma, who is on the verge of becoming priestess of Lashima when she is called to become a ruling lady. A ruling lady is a female person who is the head of their house. That means, as we find out in the first couple of pages of the book, that both her brother and father were killed in the Rift War, and therefore she must become the ruling lady of the house of Akoma. She has to take on a job that she was never trained for because her brother was supposed to become the next ruling lord. That's a very dangerous job because every house in Calawan plays or tries to play the game of council, meaning they're extremely politically active, always trying to elevate the status of their house. Mara, at her young age, has to throw herself into all of that if her house was to survive. Daughter of the Empire describes the political, social, and cultural system of the Tsurani society in a wonderful way, and the book kept me on edge till the last page. I highly recommend it, and I rated it with 4.5 stars, though I could have given it pure 5 stars too. I might change that actually because I enjoyed every aspect of the book. Second book in the Empire trilogy is Servant of the Empire. The book continues where the previous one left off, and Mara must face the same enemy once more, the enemy who was indirectly guilty for the deaths of her brother and father. Just like in the first book, the suspense never left me, and I eagerly turned the pages to learn more as quickly as possible. There are elements of romance between Mara and Kevin, her slave, but they're not overpowering, and Kevin actually had a good influence on her because thanks to him, Mara managed to see the flaws, contradictions, and limitations of the Tsurunwani Empire, but its potential as well. Not a single loose end was left, and the road leading to the end of the book was a marvelous experience for me. the last book in the series, Mistress of the Empire. Before I even started reading the book, I assumed what might happen at the end because of the title itself. But, guys, this book didn't disappoint me at all. This book shows so well how much Mara has grown and learned from that moment when she was a 17-year-old girl who was about to become a priestess. This book is the climax of Mara's ability to play the game of council as she pushes the limits of the established Tsurani culture and society even further. If you start with the Rift War saga and enjoy the books, definitely pick up these 3 books because they won't disappoint you. All 3 books of the Empire trilogy are quite large. The first one has 528 pages, my old edition at least, so the new edition might have more. The second one 827 and the third one 860 pages, but they're really worth every page. And the last book I read in April is Can't Fear Your Own World by Tit Kubo or Tait Kubo. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's a manga novel in the Bleach universe. And those of you who like watching anime and reading manga, you probably read and watched Bleach. Those of you who haven't, Bleach is a manga about a teenage boy in Japan, in Karakura town, named Kurosaki Ichigo, who was always able to see ghosts. One evening, he crosses paths with a Shinigami, Kuchiki Rukia, and Ichigo becomes a Shinigami himself. Shinigami is a death god. I won't be talking about the manga, but this book, Can't Fear Your Own World, is the continuation of the manga. The book was very enjoyable to me and it was a light read, so those of you who have already read Bleach but haven't read this book, definitely pick it up. It gives more information about the noble houses in Soul Society. Soul Society is the place where the Shinigami, so the death gods, live. And apparently we get to learn more about the Soul King in books 2 and 3 as well. I haven't read them yet. They'll be for May, but my husband did and I heard about it from him. Okay, now that my pages about books read in April are complete, let's go back to the progress reading calendar. I'm marking with a Tombow pen when I started and finished each of the 7 books, and you might notice that some books I finished in 2 evenings, that's when I read the most, and some are spread out across several evenings because I didn't have time to read each evening. I also marked here that I started reading Can't Fear Your Own World too, but I only read 10 pages or so, and then I had to put it down, so that's gonna be a book for May. On the books read page, I pasted the book covers of all 7 books. I printed them on the HP sprocket in case anyone is wondering. Below each cover I wrote down the co-pile score I gave them and covered up the blank spaces with different sterling ink stickers. Next up, I'm filling out the reading stats. So, books completed 7, but that you already knew. Pages read 4,156, and damn, that's a lot when you see a number like that. Genres were mostly fantasy and 1 manga novel, and the klutz that I am sometimes, I forgot to write down the average rating. I noticed that when I was already done filming and started doing the voiceover. I'll have to go back to that later on. I know it's a long video, but I had a couple of more pages to go, so bear with me. Since I read 2 trilogies from the Rift War cycle, I had to mark that down on my series tracker page. As you can see, the Rift War cycle consists of 10 sagas, and in total there are 30 books. I just counted them as I was filling out the first 2 sagas. If I manage to read all of them this year, which is my plan, then my goals page will be nicely filled out fully. I set up my goal for this year to be 50 books, but I might go over that if I have a good reading year. For now, I'm happily coloring in the numbers from 1 to 7 and looking forward to the end of May to see where I'll end up. The last page I went to is my books read page, where I wrote down the name and author of each book that I read. That's the whole purpose of this page, to have a list of all the books I read in 2024. And now we're coming to the final flip through. I was really inspired to make this video because books were always a big part of my life and I cannot not read. Every time I speak of books, even with my friends, I get very excited. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. I wish you a great week ahead and talk to you soon. Bye.